It was a cold, windy afternoon in a little town full of action. People zoomed up and down the streets, some carried big bags, others chatted on phones, and a few pushed strollers with noisy babies. Cars honked, bikes whizzed by, and the air smelled like hot dogs from a cart nearby. Everyone was busy doing their own thing. But there, on the cracked sidewalk, sat a skinny boy nobody seemed to notice. His name was Sam Turner. He looked small and quiet, like he didn't belong in all the hustle and bustle. His jacket was old and ripped at the elbows. His shoes? They had big holes, so you could see his socks peeking out. His hair was a messy mop, flopping over his eyes like a wild jungle. To the people rushing past, he was just another homeless kid. Someone invisible. Someone they thought didn't matter at all. But here's the big secret, Sam wasn't just some regular kid. Oh no, he was way more special than that. He had something inside him, something amazing that nobody could see yet. It was like a tiny spark in his eyes, a little fire that glowed even when the wind tried to blow it out. Sam didn't talk much, and he didn't cry or yell when people ignored him. He just sat there, watching the world go by, with that secret spark growing bigger every day. The bullies who walked past him didn't have a clue. They were loud and mean, strutting around like they owned the whole town. They'd laugh and point at Sam, thinking he was weak and worthless. But they were so wrong. Sam was hiding something huge, something so big it would one day make their mouths hang open in shock. Let's paint the picture a little more. The town wasn't super fancy, but it had everything a town needs. There was a grocery store with bright red apples in the window, a barber shop where old men told funny stories, and a park with swings that creaked when kids played on them. The streets were lined with little houses, some had flowers in the yards, others had bikes leaning against the porches. People waved to each other, dogs barked at squirrels, and the sun peeked through gray clouds every now and then. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone well, almost everyone. Sam didn't fit into their busy little world. He didn't have a house or a family to wave at him. He didn't even have a dog to bark at squirrels with. All he had was a spot on the sidewalk, a torn jacket, and that secret spark nobody knew about yet. Now, imagine Sam sitting there. He's got his knees pulled up to his chest, trying to stay warm. His hands are stuffed in his pockets, and his breath makes little puffs in the chilly air. People walk by without even looking at him. A lady in a big coat hurries past, clutching her purse. A man with a briefcase steps over Sam's stretched out legs like he's just a puddle to avoid. Kids on scooters zip by, giggling, not even noticing the quiet boy watching them. To them, Sam was like a ghost there, but not really there. They didn't stop to wonder who he was or why he sat there every day. They didn't care. And that's exactly why Sam's story is so wild, because the kid they ignored was about to turn everything upside down. But let's talk about those bullies for a second. They were a group of big, loud kids who thought they ruled the streets. They wore cool sneakers and jackets with logos, and they always walked together like a pack of wolves. The leader was a tall boy named Jake. He had a mean grin and eyes that squinted when he laughed at people. Jake and his friends loved picking on anyone they thought was weaker than them. And when they saw Sam, oh, they thought he was the perfect target. A kid with no home, no nice clothes, no one to stick up for him. Easy. They'd toss stuff at him like crumpled wrappers or pebbles and call him names. Hey, trash boy, they'd yell, laughing like it was the funniest thing ever. They didn't know Sam was tougher than he looked. They didn't see that spark in his eyes. They had no idea what he was hiding. Sam didn't fight back, not with fists or loud words, anyway. He'd just sit there, brushing dirt off his jacket, staring at them with those quiet, sparkly eyes. That made the bullies mad sometimes. They wanted him to cry or run away, but Sam wouldn't give them that. He'd just watch them, like he was studying them, like he knew something they didn't. And he did. That secret he carried. It was growing bigger every time they laughed at him. Every mean word, every shove, every pebble they threw, it was like adding wood to his little fire. Sam wasn't ordinary, and he wasn't weak. He was waiting. Waiting for the right moment to show the world who he really was. So, what was Sam's secret? That's the fun part you don't know yet. But I'll give you a tiny hint, it's something so cool, so surprising, that even Jake and his bully friends wouldn't believe it if you told them. It's something that would make them stop laughing and start staring. Something that would turn Sam from the kid they picked on into the kid they wished they'd been nice to. Can you guess what it might be? Maybe he's super smart, like a kid who invents stuff. Or maybe he's got a hidden talent nobody saw coming. Drop your guesses in the comments below. I'm dying to see what you think. I'll spill a little more soon, so stick around. Here's the hook to keep you hooked. Sam's story starts right here, on this cold sidewalk, with nothing but a torn jacket and a secret. The bullies thought they were big shots, but they didn't know they were messing with someone who'd one day be bigger than all of them put together. This is just the beginning, and trust me, it gets wilder from here. What happens next? How does Sam go from invisible to unstoppable? You'll have to keep reading to find out. So, what do you think Sam's secret could be? Tell me in the comments, and let me know where you're reading this from today. If you like stories where the underdog wins, hit that thumbs up button. I've got more coming your way. Across the street from where Sam sat, a bunch of noisy teenagers showed up. They were loud, like a pack of barking dogs, and they walked like they owned everything. They even gave themselves a cool name, the Kings of Parker Street. Sounds fancy, huh? But really, they were just a group of mean kids who liked causing trouble. The leader was a tall boy named Jake. He had messy brown hair, a big smirk on his face, and hands that were always itching to do something rotten. Jake thought he was the toughest kid around, and his friends followed him like little ducklings, ready to laugh at whatever he did. That day, Jake's sharp eyes landed on Sam, sitting quietly on the sidewalk. Sam was just minding his own business, his torn jacket pulled tight around him. But to Jake, Sam looked like an easy target. With a sneaky grin, Jake grabbed an empty soda can from the ground. He crumpled it a little in his hand, then tossed it right at Sam. Clank! It hit the sidewalk near Sam's feet, bouncing a little. "Hey, trash boy!" Jake yelled, his voice loud and nasty. "Why don't you crawl back to your dumpster where you belong?" The other kids burst out laughing, pointing at Sam like he was some kind of joke. One of them kicked a clump of dirt, and it flew through the air, landing on Sam's lap. Another flicked a pebble that bounced off his shoe. They were having a great time, acting like big shots. But Sam? He didn't move. He didn't jump up or yell back. He didn't even blink. He just sat there, calm as a still pond, and wiped the dirt off his face with his sleeve. His eyes, those sparkly, secret-filled eyes, stared right at Jake and his crew. He didn't say a word. He was quiet as a shadow, watching them like they were ants under a magnifying glass. That quietness bugged Jake. It bugged him a lot. He didn't like that Sam wasn't scared or crying. Jake stepped closer, his sneakers crunching on the gravel. "What's your problem, weirdo?" he snapped, his voice sharp like a barking dog. He leaned down a little, glaring at Sam. "Think you're better than us or something?" Jake's friends snickered behind him, egging him on. They wanted a fight. They wanted Sam to run away or beg them to stop. But Sam didn't do any of that. He just kept staring, his face blank but his eyes alive with that hidden fire. Oh, Jake had no clue what he was dealing with. He thought Sam was weak because he didn't shout or swing his fists. He thought Sam was just a punching bag, a kid with no home, no nice clothes, and no one to help him. But that's where Jake got it all wrong. Sam's silence wasn't weakness. It was strength. Big, quiet, powerful strength. Deep down, Sam wasn't just sitting there feeling sad. Nope. He was thinking. He was planning. His brain was buzzing like a beehive, full of ideas nobody could see yet. Every time Jake called him a name, every time those kids laughed or threw something, it didn't break Sam. It made him stronger. It was like tossing sticks into a campfire, each one made the flames grow higher. Sam wasn't scared of these bullies. He wasn't even mad. He was waiting, like a lion hiding in the grass, ready to pounce when the time was right. But Jake and his gang? They didn't see a lion. They saw a mouse. And that was their big mistake. Let's zoom in on Jake for a minute. He was the kind of kid who loved being the boss. He'd push people around just to feel big. If someone dropped a candy wrapper, Jake would kick it at them and laugh. If a little kid tripped, Jake would point and call them clumsy. He thought picking on people made him cool, and his friends agreed. They'd follow him everywhere, copying his smirk, his strut, his mean words. To them, Sam was the perfect kid to mess with. He didn't have a fancy phone or shiny shoes. He didn't have a mom or dad to yell at them to stop. He was alone, or so they thought. They didn't know Sam had something better than all that. He had a secret, and it was growing bigger every day they teased him. Picture this: the sun was starting to dip low, turning the sky orange and pink. The street got a little quieter as people headed home for dinner. But Jake and his crew weren't done. They circled around Sam like sharks, kicking more dirt, tossing more trash. "Look at him," one kid shouted. "He's too dumb to even talk." Another laughed and threw a stick that landed near Sam's hand. Jake crossed his arms, grinning like he'd won a prize. "You're nothing, trash boy," he said, spitting the words out. "You'll always be nothing." The gang cheered, thinking they were so tough. Sam didn't budge. He picked up the stick, twirled it in his fingers for a second, then set it down. He wiped more dirt off his jacket and looked up at Jake. That look, it wasn't scared. It wasn't angry. It was something else. Something that made Jake's smirk twitch just a tiny bit. For a second, Jake wondered why Sam wasn't running. But then he shook it off and laughed again. "Let's go, guys," he said, turning away. "This loser's boring." They strutted off, high-fiving each other, thinking they'd won. But they didn't win. Not even close. Every mean word they said, every piece of trash they threw, it was all piling up inside Sam. Not as sadness, but as power. He wasn't just some kid they could kick around. He was building something in his head, something huge. The bullies saw a punching bag, but Sam was more like a rocket, ready to blast off when they least expected it. Little did they know, every insult was like fuel for his engine. Every laugh was pushing him closer to something amazing. The tension was thick, like the air before a big storm. Jake thought he was the king, but Sam was the real one waiting in the shadows. The bullies kept poking at him, not knowing they were waking up a giant. What was Sam planning? How would he turn this all around? That's coming up next, so don't go anywhere. This is where the story starts to heat up, and trust me, you won't believe what happens when Sam's fire finally roars to life. Days went by, one after another, and things didn't get better for Sam, they got worse. Jake and his crew of mean kids turned their bullying into a game. They'd wait for Sam near the park, hiding behind trees or sitting on the swings like they owned the place. The park was supposed to be fun, with green grass, a slide, and a little pond where ducks swam. But for Sam, it was a trap. As soon as he showed up, Jake's gang pounced. They'd throw rocks, small ones that stung when they hit his legs. Sometimes they'd snatch the little bits of food Sam had found, like a half-eaten sandwich he'd pulled from a trash can or an apple someone tossed away. "This is ours now," one of them would yell, waving it in the air before taking a big bite. One cloudy day, Jake took it even further. Sam was walking by, his head down, carrying a crust of bread he'd saved. Jake stepped right in front of him, blocking his path. "You're nothing," he shouted, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Then, with a quick shove, he pushed Sam hard. Sam stumbled backward, his feet slipping on the wet ground, and splash, he landed in a big, gooey puddle of mud. The brown muck soaked into his torn jacket and splashed up onto his face. The crowd around him, other kids from school, some adults walking by, started laughing. They pointed at Sam, giggling like it was a funny show. "Look at the trash boy now," someone called out. Jake crossed his arms, grinning wide, thinking he'd won again. But Sam? He didn't cry. He didn't yell. He didn't even look mad. He just stood up, slow and steady, like nothing could keep him down. Mud dripped off his sleeves, and his shoes squished with every step. He brushed off his jacket with his hands, wiping the dirt from his face, and then he looked at Jake. That look, it was calm, quiet, strong. The crowd kept laughing, but Sam didn't care. He turned and walked away, his head high, leaving Jake standing there with his smirk. Everyone else saw a muddy kid, but Sam was different. He wasn't broken. He was building something inside. Now, here's where the story gets really cool. Sam wasn't just sitting around feeling sad or scared. Nope. He had a secret weapon, a beat-up little notebook he kept hidden in his pocket. At night, when the town got quiet and the stars peeked out, Sam would find a spot under a dim streetlight. The light wasn't bright, it flickered sometimes, buzzing like a sleepy bug, but it was enough. He'd sit on the cold ground, pull out that notebook, and start scribbling. His pencil moved fast, scratching across the pages, filling them with ideas. Not just any ideas, crazy, brilliant ones. He wrote about machines that could do amazing things, like clean up trash or fly in the sky. He sketched apps for phones that could help people talk to each other across the world. He dreamed up inventions so wild, nobody in that small town could even imagine them. Every page was packed with drawings and words, little plans that grew bigger each night. And here's the best part, every time Jake and his crew were mean to him, Sam's ideas got better. When they threw rocks, he'd go home and draw a machine to catch them. When they stole his food, he'd write about an app to share meals with hungry kids. When Jake shoved him into the mud that day, Sam didn't just walk away to sulk. That night, under the streetlight, he wrote faster than ever. His pencil flew across the paper, his eyes shining with that secret fire. Every push, every mean word, every laugh, it was like throwing gas on a flame. Sam's dreams were growing, and they were growing fast. The bullies had no idea. To them, Sam was still Trash Boy, a kid with nothing, a kid they could kick around for fun. They didn't see him at night, hunched over his notebook, turning their meanness into magic. They didn't know that every time they picked on him, they were making him stronger. Jake thought he was the big shot, strutting around the park, but Sam was the real one to watch. His notebook was like a treasure chest, and inside it, he was building a future so big it would blow everyone away. Let's picture it, the town at night was quiet. The shops were closed, their windows dark. The streets were empty, except for a stray cat or two chasing shadows. The park looked spooky with no one around, just the swings swaying a little in the breeze. And there was Sam, sitting cross-legged under that flickering streetlight. His jacket was still muddy from the day, but he didn't care. His fingers were smudged with pencil marks, and his notebook was open on his lap. He'd chew the end of his pencil for a second, thinking, then scribble some more. Page after page filled up ideas for robots, gadgets, games. Stuff that sounded like it came from a superhero movie, not a kid on the sidewalk. The next day, Jake and his crew were back at it. They saw Sam walking by the park again, and they ran over, kicking dirt at him. Still got no friends, huh? Jake teased, tossing a stick that bounced near Sam's feet. Sam didn't answer. He just picked up the stick, looked at it for a moment, then dropped it and kept walking. The bullies laughed, thinking they'd won again. But that night, Sam added a new idea to his notebook, something about a tool to pick up litter. Every mean thing they did gave him more to write about. His dreams were piling up, higher and higher, like a tower nobody could knock down. So, what do you think Sam was writing about? What kind of crazy ideas were in that notebook? Maybe a robot that cleans the park? Or an app that stops bullies? Or something even wilder? Guess in the comments, I'd love to hear your ideas. Sam wasn't just taking the bullying, he was turning it into something huge. The bullies were clueless, but you're not. You know Sam's got something up his sleeve. Stick around, because those small ideas are about to turn into a big, big surprise. Okay, let's jump ahead a few years, like hitting the fast forward button on a movie. Time had passed, and things in the little town hadn't changed much. Jake and his buddies were still there, walking around like they were the coolest kids ever. They strutted down the streets, laughing loud, wearing their fancy sneakers and jackets with big logos. They'd high-five each other, acting like they owned every inch of the place, the park, the shops, even the air everyone breathed. People in town knew them, and some even rolled their eyes when they saw them coming. Jake was still the leader, still smirking like he was king of everything. But Sam? Sam was gone, or at least, that's what everyone thought. After all those days of sitting on the sidewalk, getting picked on, he'd vanished. No one saw him by the park anymore. No one saw him under the streetlight with his notebook. The bullies figured he'd run off, too scared to stick around. Good riddance, Trash Boy, Jake had said once, kicking a can down the road, thinking Sam was history. The town went on without him, buzzing with its usual noise, dogs barking, kids playing, cars honking. Sam was just a memory, a kid they used to tease, someone they forgot about. Or so they thought. Then, one sunny day, something wild happened. The sky was blue, the birds were chirping, and the town was busy as ever. People walked their dogs, shopped for groceries, or sat on benches eating ice cream. Suddenly, a shiny black car rolled down the main street. It wasn't just any car, it gleamed like a mirror, so bright you could see your face in it. The tires were big, The windows were dark, and it moved slow, like it wanted everyone to notice. Heads turned. People stopped what they were doing. "Who's that?" they whispered to each other. Kids pointed, old ladies peeked out their windows, and even the dogs stopped barking to stare. The car pulled up right in front of the park, and the door opened with a soft click. Out stepped a young man. He wasn't skinny or muddy anymore. He wore a sharp suit, black and crisp, like something a movie star would wear. His hair was neat, combed back, not a messy flop over his eyes. His shoes shone brighter than the car, and his eyes? They sparkled with that same secret fire, only now it wasn't hidden, it was blazing. The crowd blinked, confused. Who was this guy? He looked familiar, but different. Then someone gasped, "Wait, is that Sam? Sam Turner?" Yup, it was him, the kid they'd all ignored, the kid they'd called Trash Boy. He was back, and he wasn't the same Sam anymore. Jake was there, hanging out by the park with his crew, tossing a soda can between his hands. When he saw the car, he smirked, thinking some rich guy was just passing through. But when Sam stepped out, Jake's eyes went wide for a second. Then he laughed a big, loud laugh that made his friends join in. "What's this?" Jake shouted, pointing at Sam. "Trash Boy playing dress up? Nice costume, loser." His buddies cracked up, slapping their knees, thinking it was the funniest thing ever. They didn't believe Sam could be anything but the muddy kid they used to push around. To them, this was just a joke, a silly game Sam was playing. But then Sam smiled. It wasn't a scared smile or a weak one. It was calm, strong, and a little sneaky, like he knew something they didn't. He stepped closer, his shiny shoes clicking on the pavement. The crowd went quiet, watching, waiting. Jake's laugh slowed down, his smirk twitching. Sam reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek phone. It wasn't big or clunky, it was thin, smooth, and glowed with bright colors on the screen. He held it up so everyone could see. "Funny you say that, Jake," Sam said, his voice clear and steady. "Because this little invention I made just sold for $1 billion. $1 billion. $1 billion." The crowd gasped so loud it was like the air got sucked out of the street. Jaws dropped. Eyes popped. People whispered, "Did he say $1 billion?" Jake's face froze. His smirk disappeared. His cheeks turned red, then white, like he'd seen a ghost. His soda can slipped from his hand and clattered to the ground, rolling away. His buddies stopped laughing. They stared at Sam, then at each other, then back at Sam. No way. This couldn't be real. Trash Boy? A billionaire? But Sam wasn't lying, not one bit. That homeless kid they tormented, the one they'd thrown rocks at and shoved in the mud, had done something huge. All those nights under the streetlight, scribbling in his beat-up notebook. Those crazy ideas, machines, apps, inventions had turned into real things. That phone in his hand? It was one of them. He'd built it from nothing, and some big company had paid him $1 billion for it. Sam had taken his dreams, his secret fire, and turned them into a tech empire. He wasn't just rich, he was the richest guy around, richer than anyone in that little town could even imagine. The crowd started buzzing again, louder now. "Sam's a billionaire," someone shouted. "That's our Sam," another yelled. Kids clapped, adults cheered, and even the dogs wagged their tails. People who'd ignored him before were suddenly smiling at him, amazed. Jake and his crew? They didn't know what to do. They stood there, quiet, small, like the air had been knocked out of them. Jake tried to laugh again, but it came out weak, like a cough. "No way," he muttered, kicking at the ground. "He's lying." But everyone could see it, Sam wasn't the nobody anymore. The bullies were. This was the big moment, the twist nobody saw coming. Sam Turner, the kid they'd laughed at, was standing tall in his sharp suit, holding $1 billion invention. His notebook dreams weren't just scribbles now, they were real, and they'd changed everything. Jake's mean words, the rocks, the mud, it all led to this. Sam didn't need to yell or fight back then. He'd waited, planned, and built something so big it flipped the whole town upside down. The bullies thought they were kings, but Sam was the real one now. And oh boy, this was just the start of his payback. Sam wasn't done after showing everyone he was a billionaire. Oh no, he had bigger plans. With all that money, he started buying up half the town. The first place he grabbed. The park, the same park where Jake and his buddies used to pick on him. That muddy spot where they'd thrown rocks and shoved him around. Sam turned it into something amazing. He made it a special place for kids like he used to be, kids with no home, no fancy stuff, but big dreams. He added picnic tables with free food every day, sandwiches, apples, juice, all for anyone who needed it. He built a little library with tons of books, so kids could read and imagine new ideas. The swings got fixed, the grass got green again, and it became a happy spot where everyone could feel safe and dream big. Jake didn't know what to say. He saw the park changing, saw the signs that said Sam's dream spot, and tried to laugh it off. Big deal, he mumbled, kicking a pebble, acting like it didn't matter. But nobody cared what Jake thought anymore. His buddies didn't even laugh with him this time. The town was buzzing about Sam. People crowded around him wherever he went. "Sam, can I work for you?" a man asked, holding his hat. "Sam, how'd you do it?" a lady begged, wanting advice. Kids ran up, asking for high fives, calling him a hero. Sam wasn't just rich, he was the guy everyone looked up to now. Jake. He was just some loud kid fading into the background. One sunny afternoon, something funny happened. Jake slunk over to Sam. His head was down, his hands stuffed in his pockets, and his cool sneakers didn't look so cool anymore. He shuffled his feet, staring at the ground, and mumbled, "Hey, man, no hard feelings, right?" His voice was quiet, like he was scared Sam might yell. He was trying to act like everything was fine, like all those mean days never happened. The old Jake, the one who smirked and called Sam trash boy, was gone. Now he just looked small and nervous. Sam turned to him, standing tall in his sharp suit. He didn't yell or laugh or shove Jake back. He just looked at him with those bright, calm eyes and said, "I don't hold grudges, Jake. I don't stay mad. But maybe next time, think twice before you kick someone who's down." His words were simple but strong, like a teacher giving a lesson. Jake blinked, nodded a little, then turned and walked away. His head hung low, his shoulders slumped, and for once, he didn't have anything smart to say. The crowd watched him go, then cheered for Sam even louder. Sam stood there, the sun shining on him, finally getting the respect he deserved. He'd turned all the bad stuff, the mud, the rocks, the mean words, into something good. The bullies didn't matter anymore. Sam was the real winner, and everyone knew it now. And that's the story of Sam Turner, a kid who started with nothing and ended up with everything. He went from sitting on a cold sidewalk, wearing a torn jacket, to standing tall as a billionaire with a shiny suit. How did he do it? He never gave up. Not once. The bullies, Jake and his crew, thought they could break him. They threw rocks, stole his food, and called him mean names like Trash Boy. They laughed and pushed him into the mud, thinking he'd stay down forever. But they were so wrong. Sam didn't let their meanness stop him. He kept dreaming, kept scribbling in his notebook, and turned all that bad stuff into something amazing. The bullies didn't see it coming, but Sam was stronger than they ever knew. Here's the cool part: sometimes, the person everyone ignores is the one who changes everything. Sam was quiet. He didn't fight back with fists or loud words. People walked by him every day, not even looking, thinking he was just some homeless kid with no future. But inside, Sam had a fire, a big, bright fire of ideas and hope. He didn't need to shout or show off. He just kept going, step by step, until he built a tech empire and turned that park into a place for other kids to dream. The ones who laughed at him, they ended up looking silly, while Sam changed the world. That's the secret: sometimes the quiet ones, the ones nobody notices, are the ones with the most power. Think about that for a second. Maybe you've felt ignored before. Maybe someone's been mean to you, or maybe you've seen someone else get picked on. Sam's story shows you don't have to stay down. You can keep going, keep dreaming, and turn the hard stuff into something great. It's not about being loud or fighting back right away, it's about believing in yourself, even when no one else does. Sam didn't let the bullies win. He didn't let the mud or the cold stop him. He took all that and made it fuel for his fire. And look what happened: he went from nothing to everything. So, what's your takeaway from Sam's story? What did you learn? Maybe it's that you're stronger than you think. Or maybe it's that being kind is better than being mean, because you never know who someone really is inside. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, I'd love to hear what you think. Did Sam's story make you smile? Did it make you feel like you could do big things too? Tell me. And if you liked this tale, give it a big thumbs up. I've got more stories like this coming your way, stories about kids who rise up, surprise everyone, and make the world better. Stick around, because you won't want to miss what's next. Sam's story isn't just about him, it's about you, too. Keep dreaming, keep going, and who knows? Maybe one day, you'll be the one everyone's cheering for.